We listen to our customers, and many of our customers have told us that sometimes they need to know the older version as well as the popular programs. So, to help you stay both flexible and up to date, we've designed quick study videos to be used with the latest versions as well as the earlier versions of your software programs. This could be a lifesaver in a tight situation. Where major differences exist between the versions, the keystroke sheet shows you both methods. Any suggestions you may have to improve our packages would be appreciated.
In this video, we'll show how to enter text and how to move around on the screen. We'll show how to move and copy text. And we'll show how to use the file manager. In this video, we'll show how to use the search and replace feature, how to check for spelling errors in your document, how to find alternate words with the Thesaurus, how to reveal codes in the document, how to format margins and other items on your page, how to create columns in your document, how to insert graphics, and how to use the merge feature. We'll show how to create labels, and how to use macros, and also many other features. If you're using WordPerfect version 5.1 or earlier, your text will probably look like this on the screen, white text against a blue background. This is known as the text mode in version 6. Version 6 also has two other methods of viewing the text. To choose one of these other methods, hold down the Control key and press F3. This brings up the screen dialog box. In this box, we can choose the display mode. Notice that text is currently chosen. We'd like to choose graphics. We could also choose page. In this video, we'll be showing everything in the graphics mode. The page mode is very similar. To choose the graphics mode, we press the number 3 on the keyboard. This switches to the graphics mode. Another way of switching is using the mouse. Click on the number, the space, or the word using the left mouse button. Graphics mode gives us a better idea of what the document will look like when it's printed. This mode is one of the important new features of WordPerfect 6.0. We're going to use the graphics mode for this video. First, we'll show how to type in text on the screen and how to use the Enter key to create a new paragraph. When you type in text on any computer word processor, it's not necessary to hit the Enter key as you would on a typewriter when you get to the end of the line. Sometimes this is known as the return key. When you type and you reach the end of the line, it automatically, the word processor will automatically move to the next line for you. When you want to create a new paragraph, then you use the Enter key. Pressing Enter now on the keyboard moves the cursor down to the next line. And you type in there, and this will become a new paragraph. On a computer word processor, even individual lines such as these will be considered paragraphs. When you type in a line, press enter at the end, and it will move to the next line. Later on, when we show formatting, changing fonts and styles and so forth, we'll be showing how you can perform these formatting features on a paragraph. And a paragraph can be just one line. And just a little bit about moving around on the screen. In areas where you've typed in text already, you can use the arrow keys to move around. Using the up arrow moves up, the right arrow moves right, the down arrow moves down, and so forth. But when you get to areas of the screen where you haven't typed, the arrow key won't take you any further down the page because you haven't created any new lines there. To do that, you have to hit the enter key. Then we have to use the enter key to actually create more lines on the page. And every time you hit the enter key, it places a new blank line. A few hints about moving around in a document. You can use page up or page down to move a page at a time. This will move from page to page. You start at the top of a page. When you move page down, it goes to the top of the next page. You can move to the very beginning of a document by pressing home twice and then the up arrow. Home, home, up takes you to the very beginning of the document. And likewise, home, home, down takes you to the very end of the document. You've probably noticed that whenever you type something, the text appears at the cursor, and the text after the cursor is pushed back to the right. For instance, when you type in the word listed, the word estimates moves to the right to make a space. This is called the insert mode, and this is the normal mode for typing in WordPerfect. You can also insert a space here. You're always inserting new characters where the cursor is and moving other characters to the right. If you ever go to the keyboard and discover that as you type, you're typing over words that are already on the screen, this is the type over mode. And the way you change between the insert and type over mode is using the insert key here on the keyboard. Press insert, and now you're in the insert mode again. You can tell whether you're in the insert or type over mode by looking at the bottom of the screen. When you're in the type over mode, by pressing insert, you see it says type over at the bottom. This is not the normal mode. And you just change by pressing the insert key again. Now you go back to the normal status line at the bottom, which shows the font. Now we're back in the normal insert mode. Next, we'll show how to move a section of a document from one place to another. We'll take this paragraph and move it down below this one. First, we need to place the cursor at the beginning of the paragraph that we want to block out, or so we can move it. And we do that using the arrow keys to move from wherever the cursor is to that location. Or you can also use the mouse. Move the mouse arrow to that location and click with the left mouse button. Click once, and that places the cursor there. Now we're ready to either type there or perform some other kind of action. In this case, we want to block the text so we can move it. And we perform the block feature by holding down the Alt key and pressing F4. Then at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the line that says block on here at the bottom. Now we're ready to block or select this text. And the easiest way to do that is to use the arrow keys. You can move to the right with the arrow keys to block individual words or parts of lines. Or you can move straight down with the arrow keys to block entire lines at once. Now I've moved down with the arrow key, with the down arrow key 4 times, and these 4 lines are all blocked or selected. Now we're ready to actually move the text. Now, to move the text, we hold down the Control key and press F4. We get this Move Block box on the screen. Moving to the right, you can see the different actions that we can take. Cut and paste, which is basically moving the text. It'll remove it from where it is and place it in a new location. Or you can also choose copy and paste, which will leave a copy of the text behind and also place it in a new location. You can just delete, and there's some other choices here. We'll talk more about these choices later. For now, we want to move, which is the same as cut and paste. So to choose this, we either press a 1 on the keyboard, or press the underlined letter, which is a T here, or you can also click on these with the mouse. Okay, let's press a 1 on the keyboard. Now, looking back up to the text, you'll see that that paragraph has been removed. It goes into a special place in the computer's memory. Now here at the bottom of the screen, we can see Move Cursor and press Enter to retrieve. So we need to put the cursor at the new location where we want the text to be located. Let's just use the arrow key for this. We could also use the mouse. Move down. Let's place it right here, right where the cursor is located. And then all we have to do, remember that at the bottom it said press Enter to retrieve. And then press the Enter key on the keyboard. And now this paragraph has been placed in this location. And if we need a blank line above it, all we have to do is press the Enter key again, and that places a blank line above it. Next, we'll show how to copy an item and paste it somewhere else. Hold down the Control key and press F4. This brings up the Move Block box again. And this time we want to choose Copy and Paste, because we're not going to remove the item from where it is. We're just going to make a copy of it and place that in a new location. So we can press the number 2 to choose Copy and Paste, or we can type the letter C, since that's what's underlined here, or we can click on any of this area with the mouse. Or we can use the arrow key to move down to that item and then hit Enter. Okay, let's press the number 2 on the keyboard. Now, at the bottom of the screen, this is just like when we moved. It says Move Cursor and press Enter to retrieve. So we want to move the cursor down to this area here and place the company name right here. So let's just move down with the arrow key. Using down arrow, we're just pressing the down arrow key. Now the cursor is positioned where we want it, and we just press Enter on the keyboard, and the item is pasted here in this new location. And notice, looking back up to the top of the screen, we haven't removed it, we just made a copy of it, and then using copy and paste, we placed a copy of it here at the bottom. Next, we'll show how to undo an operation immediately after performing it. For instance, we'll undo this copy. We copied and pasted this item to the bottom here, and we're going to remove it now just by using undo. And the keyboard command for undo is Control plus Z. Hold down Control and press Z. And it removes the item that we just pasted in to the screen. It undoes the previous operation. Now we can toggle back and forth. If we perform undo again, it will undo the last thing that was done, which was the undo. So Control plus Z again brings that back. Now you can just go back and forth between these two things. Next, we'll show how to delete and how to undelete items in our document. There are several ways we can delete an item. Move the cursor to just before the item, just to the left of the word. Then, use the delete key on the keyboard, and everything to the right of the cursor is deleted. You can also delete using the backspace key by first moving the cursor. We're using the arrow key now to move the cursor to a position following the word. We're going to delete the word will here. Move the cursor after the word and use the backspace key to backspace and remove the word. You can also block a word and remove it. Let's move the cursor down here with the arrow key, and using Alt F4 or F12, block out the item. Here we're going to use F12 to block. Position the cursor, then press F12. Notice now at the bottom of the screen, it says block on. Looking back at the top, just use your arrow key to move to the right. This blocks it. Then, using the delete key, you can delete the item once it's been blocked. Using the delete key. Now we've deleted 3 different things. Now we'll show how to use undelete. When you got the cursor positioned, press the escape key. This is not the right word, so we press the number 2. And this is the correct word, and we press 1 to restore. When you're finished typing your document, you need to save it on the disk. You do this by pressing the F10 key. Press F10, and you get this box on the screen which says Save Document 1, or whichever document you happen to be working on. And it has a place for you to type in a name for your document. Notice that the current directory, the current location on the disk where the file will be saved is the C drive and the directory WP Docs. This is for WordPerfect documents. This is the normal directory where documents will be saved in WordPerfect. It tells the format, You can also save in other formats. We'll talk about this later. And there are other options here which we'll talk about later. For now, type in the name of the file. This can just be any name, but with a maximum of 8 characters or letters. Let's use the word letter to identify this one. L-E-T-T-E-R. This will be the name of our file. And of course, you may want to give it some more descriptive name. This can be up to 8 characters. You can add numbers, or you can have some other word that'll identify this particular file, so it'll be easier for you to find. Then, once you've typed in the name, then you press Enter on the keyboard. Press the Enter key. It's important to remember that until you save your letter on the disk, it doesn't actually exist anywhere else except on the screen in the computer's memory. And if you have not saved it, and the power goes out or something else happens to your computer, you'll lose everything you've typed. So it's important to save frequently, especially if you have a long document and you spend a long time typing. Every 10 or 15 minutes you should save it. Next, we'll show how to exit the document. When you're finished with your letter or other document, and you've saved it on the disk, then you're ready to exit. You do this by pressing F7. This brings up a dialog box that asks you if you want to save your document. You may have made some changes since the last time you saved it. You have the choice of saving as. You might want to give it a different name. In this case, you would choose Save As. Or go ahead and save it with the current name. You choose Yes. To exit without saving, you choose No. To cancel, you choose Cancel, and you'll go back to the document so you can make more changes or not exit the document. And you can choose these items again by clicking with the mouse on the item, using the mouse arrow, pressing it on, putting it on the item, and then pressing the left mouse button to select that item. Or you may use the underlined letter, or another way you do it is to use the arrow keys to move the highlighted or the little border from one button to another. Let's put it on Yes using the arrow key, and then press Enter. Now we've exited the document. Then next it wants to know whether we want to also exit WordPerfect. Same thing, we can type a Y for yes, an N for a no, or we can also use cancel. Another way of canceling is to hit the escape key on the keyboard. Or we can use the arrow key to select the one we want, or click on the one that we want with the mouse. Let's choose no, because we want to stay in WordPerfect, and we'll just leave it where the highlight is and press Enter. Now, we've exited the document, and we have a blank screen where we can start entering a new document. Next, we'll show how to open an existing document from the disk. We do this by holding down the Shift key and pressing F10. This brings up the Open Document dialog box. Here we can type in the name of the file or document if we know it. We're looking in this current directory. And we can choose between open into a new document or retrieve it into the current document. We can bring a document into one that we already have on the screen. In this case, we want to open to a new document. If you know the name of the file, we type it in here. We know that in this directory, there's one called letter because we just saved it there. So let's type in L-E-T-T-E-R. And it doesn't matter whether it's capitalized or not. Type in L-E-T-T-E-R and then just press Enter. And the same document that we just saved is opened on the screen. When we get to this point, if we don't know the name of the document, then we can choose to go to the File Manager to look at the documents in this directory, or maybe even look in other directories to find the document we need. Notice at the bottom, it says File Manager F5. We can choose F5 anytime from the keyboard, anytime we're in a document. This is also known as List Files. Press F5 on the keyboard or File Manager. Then, in this dialog box, it says Specify File Manager List. And we have the choice of which directory. Here we have the current directory already entered for us. If this is the one we want, we can go ahead and move on. Or we can type in a different directory at this point. And we'll talk more about File Manager later. To accept this current directory and the files in it, just press Enter. Or, using the mouse on any of these boxes, you can click OK. Press Enter, and now we're in the File Manager screen. This is the File Manager screen. Just briefly, on the left, at the top, it shows the name of the directory, and then asterisk dot asterisk, which is just an abbreviation or a wildcard, which allows the list to show all of the files in this directory. This just means show all files in this directory. Now here, in the file list, we can look for our file. Now, if there are more, you can reach those by scrolling down, by pressing this arrow with the mouse button, with the mouse, and clicking on it with the left mouse button, or you may use the arrow keys to scroll down through these items. As you use the arrow keys, when we reach the bottom, we just keep pressing the down arrow, and the list moves up, and we can see more and more toward the bottom. Now, we can use our arrow keys to move back up, and here's the one we just saved, called Letter. Let's open it again. Once it's highlighted like this, we've highlighted it by moving down to it with the arrow key. Then, we can just press Enter. Notice up on the right, we have a list of different operations or things that you can do in the File Manager. Currently, Open into New Document is highlighted. Whatever is highlighted or outlined, when you press Enter, that will be performed. Or you can also choose from the list using the numbers, pressing the number 1, 2, 3, etc. on the keyboard. You can see there are many different things you can do with File Manager, and we'll cover more of these later. For now, we want to open into a new document, and so we press Enter. Now, we've opened up the file again from the disk. You may have more than one document open in WordPerfect at any one time. If you have enough memory, you can have up to 9 documents open at the same time in the computer. And then you can just switch between documents. Or, as we'll show you later, there's also a way to look at more than one document at the same time. To open a new document, press F3 for Switch To. This opens up a box, a Switch to Document box. Currently, we have just one document open. You can go to any one of these other ones, which may be considered just blank documents, by pressing the number. Let's press the number 2 on the keyboard. Just press the number 2 on the keyboard. Now, we've gone to a new blank screen where we can begin creating document number 2. Notice in the upper left-hand corner, the cursor is flashing there, ready for us to type in new information. And notice in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, we have document 2. This is the status line. It tells us we're in document 2, page 1, line, and so forth. Then we can switch back to the previous document by holding down the Shift key and pressing F3 for switch. This switches us immediately back to the other document. Now we'll show how to copy some information from one open document to the other. You might want to do this so you could create a similar letter to the one you already have, but with some slight changes. Maybe address it to a different person. First, use Alt plus F4 to turn on the block feature. Notice we have the cursor here at the top. Use Alt plus F4 or use the F12 key. Block is on. Now look at the bottom of the screen. It says block on. And use the down arrow to highlight everything. I'm going to make a copy of this entire letter. Use the right arrow to move over to get everything. Then remember that it was Control F4 for move. And this time we're going to copy and paste as we showed earlier. This is number 2. Copy and paste. Press the number 2 on the keyboard. Now, remember at the bottom now it says move the cursor and press enter to retrieve. Now, we can move the cursor into another document just by switching to that other document. So now we need to use Shift F3 again. So hold down the Shift key, press F3 for switch. Now, notice that at the bottom it still says press enter to retrieve. We've basically moved the cursor to another document. Notice here at the top of the screen is the cursor. Now, all we have to do is press enter to retrieve. Press enter on the keyboard, and the text is retrieved into the new document. Now notice it has a slightly different appearance. The font is different. That's because a new document always defaults to this Courier 10 characters per inch bold. This is the default for new documents, and you can change the fonts, which we'll show how to do later. Then you can switch back and forth between these documents just using the switch key again, which is Shift plus F3. Hold down Shift, press F3. Now we're in the other document. You can tell the difference because of the different font, the different type style. And you go back and forth just by holding Shift and pressing F3. If we had more than 2 documents open, if we had 7 or 8 documents, we would switch through each document in order using Shift F3. Of course, you can also switch using just the F3 key by itself, which means switch to. When you press just F3 by itself, then you get the switch to document box, which will give you a list of your documents. And notice we have this new document which hasn't been titled yet. We can give it a title when we save it. We can switch between these documents by typing the number by the document or by clicking on it with the mouse. And if we want to create a new document, we just press the number for a new document. Pressing 3 here will take us to a new blank screen where we can create a new document. Whenever we have a box open on the screen like this and we don't want to do anything, you can press cancel. Notice that it's highlighted here. It's got the little outline. Another way to press the cancel button is to type escape on the keyboard. So if we're typing escape, That pushes the button and cancels that box. Next, we'll show how to search for a particular word in a document. Make sure that your cursor is positioned at the beginning of the document. Then, on the keyboard, press F2. Notice that this opens a search box on the screen where you can type in the word you want to search for. We're going to search for the name Johnson. Once you've typed it in, you don't need to press Enter. You merely need to press the F2 key to actually perform the search. Press F2. Notice that it has found the first occurrence of the name Johnson, even though there was something else after the name. It will find any group of letters that matches the group that you typed into the box. If you'd like to search again, for the next time it occurs, then press F2 again. Now let's perform a search and replace. To do this, hold down the Alt key, then press F2. This opens the Search and Replace dialog box. Currently it has the name Johnson because we've already entered that. And move down to the next box now using the Tab key on the keyboard. Press Tab. Now we're ready to type in the word we want to replace Johnson with. And all we need to do is type in the replacement word here. Now all we need to do is perform the replacement by pressing F2 again. Press F2 all by itself. It has found now 4 occurrences of the name Johnson and made 4 replacements. Now we need to just press Enter on the keyboard, which is the same as clicking OK. Now when we look over to the left, we can see that Johnson has been changed to Johnston. We also had one more down here. That's why there were 4. Next, we'll show how to check a document for spelling errors. To do this, we first hold down the Control key and press F2. Normally, document is highlighted. This is the default. We want to check the entire document usually. We can press the number 3 or click on this with the mouse. Since this is highlighted, we can also use the Enter key. It always highlights the word and then gives you a list of suggestions. In this case, there's quite a list. There are 22 in all. This is suggestion number 1 that's currently highlighted. Let's use the arrow keys to move down, or we could also type the letter next to the suggestion that we want. This is the word we want, S-O-M-E, some. On the right, we have the option, Replace Word, highlighted. Type a 7 to choose this. The word is replaced, and it moves to the next word. Now it's found a duplicate word. we've repeated the word as twice. We can skip the duplicate word. We may have intended to have the same word twice. In this case, we want to use number 3 to delete the duplicate word. Press a 3 on the keyboard, and the duplicate word is deleted. The next word is a name, and it's not a common name. Many common names are found in the WordPerfect dictionary, and the spell checker will skip over those names without any problem. But here's a name that is not found in the dictionary, and it also has no suggestions. Over on the right, we can choose to go ahead and skip it this one time, or to skip it always in this document. If this is a name that is all throughout the document, we may want to choose number 2. Or we can add it to the dictionary. If this is a name we're going to encounter frequently in our documents, we may want to then add it to our dictionary. We can also edit the word if we haven't quite spelled it right. In this case, let's add it to the dictionary. Press number 3. Now it's added to the dictionary automatically. Now it has found the next word. Here's a common typing error. The first 2 letters of the word are capitalized. And there are 3 suggestions. We either want to have all lowercase, or first letter uppercase, or all uppercase. Let's choose this one, because it's the beginning of a sentence. We move down with the arrow key, and then replace word is highlighted. Whenever it's highlighted, remember you can always just press enter. Of course, you can also type the number 3. Now it's moved on to the next misspelled word. The word wrong has been spelled wrong. It's given us 2 suggestions. B is the one we want. Type the letter B, or use the down arrow, and then press enter. Notice that replace word is highlighted. Now the spell check is complete. OK is highlighted, so just press enter. Notice at the end of the document, we have a word that's incorrect. It should be find. If you have a misspelled word that is still a valid word in the dictionary, the spell checker won't find it. You need to use a grammar checker to find words that are incorrectly used in this way. Next, we'll show how to use the Thesaurus feature. The Thesaurus can help you improve your writing by finding alternative words to use in place of words that you've used in your document. For example, we'd like to find a different word to use instead of the word careful here. First, we move the cursor over to the word careful. It can be anywhere in the word or next to the word. Then on the keyboard, hold down the Alt key and press F1 for Writing Tools. This opens the Writing Tools box, or we can choose from several different writing tools. We could have also chosen Speller here from the Writing Tools box. In this case, we want number 2, Thesaurus. There are also some other choices here. Let's type the number 2. Now the Thesaurus box opens. Notice the word that we had chosen is highlighted. And on the left, we have a list of synonyms, alternate words for the word careful. Using the arrow key, move down to highlight the word you want. When you've highlighted it, then if you press enter on the keyboard, you also get another list of words, of shades of meaning for that word. Notice some words have the dot by them. The words with dots will have other words listed, such as this. When you press enter, you'll get another list of words of other synonyms that have that shade of meaning. Let's move down to the word observant. If this is the word we want to actually use in place of careful, notice that a highlighted word also appears at the bottom. We can just choose replace by typing the letter R. And the highlighted word will be inserted into the document in place of the original word. Now the word careful has been replaced with the word observant. Next we'll show how to print your document. To print, hold down the Shift key and press F7. In the Print Fax dialog box, you have many different choices. This is called Print Fax because if you have a fax modem attached to the computer, you can also send faxes directly from the computer. You have the option here of printing a full document or just printing the page where the cursor is located. You can also print the document on the disk, which just makes a copy on the disk. You can also do multiple pages. You can also control the printer and see a print preview. And we'll talk more about these later. To print the document, type the letter R or press enter when it's highlighted. The document is then sent to the printer. In a few moments, you have the actual printed copy from the printer. This was printed on a laser printer. Next, we'll show how to use the repeat feature to automatically repeat a group of characters or symbols. Or you may also use repeat to repeat macros or other features. To use the repeat feature, hold down the Control key and press the letter R. That opens up the repeat box. The default value is 8. To repeat something 8 times. If you want to just use this value, you leave that value there, or you can type in a new value. Now you have to perform the actual feature that you want to repeat, or the symbol that you want to repeat. For instance, if you want to repeat an asterisk, just type an asterisk, and it automatically types it 8 times. When you create a document in WordPerfect, the formatting that's shown on the screen and printed on the paper is determined using special codes. Notice the bold type here. There's actually a code that's hidden here that tells the computer to turn on the bold text, and then after it there's a code that tells it to turn it off. There's other codes throughout the document that indicate different kinds of formatting in the document. It's possible to actually view these codes to see why your document is printing in a certain way. You do this using reveal codes. There are 2 ways to do reveal codes. One is to hold down Alt and press F3. This turns on reveal codes at the bottom of the screen. Reveal codes area of the screen is a special darker area It shows the text from your document, and it shows the codes also. Currently, we're at the end of the document. Let's move the cursor back up in the document by using the arrow keys. And notice how the Reveal Codes screen follows along. You can see the codes that are contained in the various areas of the document. Here at the beginning we have a code for a certain font, certain type style. Below that we have an HRT, which appears at the ends of each of these lines. This is a hard return. This actually marks the end of a paragraph or the end of a line and the beginning of a new one. Whenever you press the Enter key as you're typing, it places a hard return code. As you move down through the document, you may see other codes such as SRT. This is a soft return. This is a return code that's placed by the program when you reach a margin as you're typing. As we did here, after you type this word, you reach the margin, it automatically wraps the text back to the next line on the left. This is accomplished by the computer with the soft return code. You may use Reveal Codes if you discover problems with the way your document's printing. For instance, here we have a line that all of a sudden ends, and then it moves down to the next line. If you notice something like this, you can turn on Reveal Codes to try to discover the problem. Place the cursor there, then look down in Reveal Codes. You can see that a hard return has been placed here. You may have accidentally pressed Enter at this point when you were typing it in. You basically created a new paragraph. Since this is highlighted, just go to the keyboard and press Delete, and it removes the hard return. Now you can see the text has the normal appearance in the document. You can use Reveal Codes to help you discover problems like this with the appearance of the document. To turn Reveal Codes off, press Alt F3 again. This turns it on or turns it off. The other way to turn Reveal Codes off and on is F11. If you have the F11 key, you can use that. Press it now, and it will turn it off. Pressing it again will turn it back on again. Next, we'll show how to use various formatting features to change the appearance or the layout of the text in the document. We access the Format menu by holding down the Shift key and pressing F8. This opens the Format menu or box on the screen. To choose line format, press 1 or press an L. To change the justification, for instance, type the number 2 or a J. Then choose the number to choose the type of justification you want. Or you can also click on these items with the mouse. Let's choose Center by pressing the number 2. Now Center is highlighted or chosen here. Only one of these can be on at a time in this case. Let's see how this affects our text in the document. Once you've made a change like that, notice that in the corner, OK is highlighted. Now that means you can just press Enter to accept the changes in the box. Enter pushes that button, in other words. Now, press Enter again to close this box. Everything from the cursor onward is centered. If we had started with the cursor down here, then only everything from there would be centered. It actually places a code at this point. If you turned reveal codes on, you would see the code right there for centering. To change it back, press Shift F8. Choose 1 for line, then 2 for justification. Then choose left, center, right, or full. Full is like a newspaper. It's aligned on both sides. Once it's highlighted, then press Enter. And then press Enter again to close this box. And then press Enter one more time. It's aligned on the left like normal. Then over on the right, also it's aligned. This is full justification. To change line spacing, hold down Shift and press F8. This brings up the Format menu or box again. Press 1 for line, then 3 for line spacing. Press the number 3 on the keyboard. That highlights the spacing in the box, and you can type in a new value for spacing. You can use 1.5 or 2. Also, if you want to use the mouse, you can click on these arrows to have it change in tenths, going up or going down. Let's choose double spacing. Type a 2 and press Enter. Now press Enter again to close the box. And then press Enter to close the Format box. Now the text is double spaced in the document. To change the margins in a document, we can do the same thing. Press Shift F8 to bring up the Format box. Margins is number 2. Now in the Margin Format box, you can choose which margin you want to change. We have left and right, top and bottom. Let's change our left margin by typing 1, or you can also use the letter L. Now 1 inch is highlighted. Let's type 1.5 and press Enter. Let's also change the right margin. Press the number 2. This highlights the 1 and just begin typing to replace it. Let's change it also to 1.5 and press Enter. Now we're finished making our changes. OK is highlighted. That means you can press Enter to accept the changes, and then press Enter here to close the box. Now notice on the left we have a wider margin. And on the right as well. We can use Print Preview to get a better idea of how it will really look when it's printed. Print Preview is activated with Shift F7. Then in the Print Fax box, choose 7 for Print Preview. Type the number 7 on the keyboard, and this goes to the print preview mode. We can get an idea of the actual size of the margins. 1.5 inches here and here. This shows the actual distance at the top and to the edge of the page on all sides. We close Print Preview by pressing Escape. Then we're back to the print box. Close that by pressing Enter. Now let's show how to change some other features in the formatting box. Press Shift F8 again to open the box. Press 3 for Page. This brings up the page format box. Here we can choose page numbering to have numbers put on each page. We can also choose to center the page top to bottom. This is vertical centering for the current page or all of the pages. Type the number 2 to center the current page. That places an X in this box. That means the current page will be centered from top to bottom. Press Enter, and press Enter to close this box. We won't actually see it without going to Print Preview. When this is actually printed, it will be centered from top to bottom on the page. Let's go back to Print Preview and see how this will appear. Shift F7 brings up Print Fax, and then press the number 7 for Print Preview. Now we can see the entire document by scrolling down through the document using the down arrow on the keyboard. We're moving down through it a few lines at a time. Now we can see the large space at the bottom of the document also. When it's printed out, you'll see that the text is centered from top to bottom. We've opened a new document on the screen that has several pages, so we can show how to put page numbers into the document. Press Shift F8, then press 3 for page. Then press 1 for page numbering. Press 1 for page number position. Then you can choose your page position. Let's choose 6 for bottom center. Press Enter. Currently we're on page 2 of the document. We're not numbering the title page. Press Enter to accept that, and press Enter to close that box and the next one. Now if we use the arrow key to move down through the document, notice you can't see the page number at the bottom. That's because we're in the graphics mode. You have to switch to the page mode or to Print Preview to see the numbers. Press Ctrl F3. That brings up the screen box. Now we can switch to the page mode by pressing 4 for page. Now we can see the top edge and the bottom edge of each page. As we move up, you can see at the bottom of page 2, there's the page number. The page mode shows us more about what the page will look like. We see the bottom of the page and this area and the number. Here's the beginning of the next page. Next, we'll show how to put headers and footers into a document. A header is an area that will appear in every page at the top. It can be text or numbers, etc. A footer is the same thing at the bottom of a page. Shift F8 brings up the format box, and then we choose 5 for header, footer, watermark. We'll show how to do watermarks in the advanced video. Choose 5. And we want to choose header A. So let's press 1 for header. And then press 1 again for header A. Now we have the choice of putting it on all pages, even or odd pages, and then pressing Create to create the header. Now we're on a special screen where we can create the header. It says header A and press F7 when done. And we can type in the information to be placed in our header. We'll type in industry report. This will be placed at the top of every page. Now we press F7. Now let's look through the document and find the header. As we scroll down through, we can see that the words industry report will appear at the top of every page. Scroll down through, and on the next page, there's the header again. Now let's go back to the very beginning, the very first page, by pressing Home twice and then the up arrow. This takes us back to the top. Now the header appears at the top of our title page, and it's probably not something we want. There's a way to eliminate or suppress the header from the first page. Make sure the cursor is on the page where you want to suppress the header, and press Shift F8. Then press the number 3 for page. In page format, down toward the bottom, we have suppress, which is the number 9, to suppress page numbering and headers. Now we have a choice for what to suppress on this page only. This is the page where our cursor is. We want to suppress header A on this page. We could choose any of these things to suppress on each page. Press 1. That puts an X here, and that means that the header will not appear on the current page. When you're finished, press Enter for OK. You can also choose to suppress everything. Press Enter. Now press Enter to close this box, and Enter again. Now at the top of the title page, notice that the header has been removed. Next, we'll show how to use the Tab key on the keyboard and how to set tabs in the document. Normally, in a document, tabs are set automatically every ½ inch. This is a default in the program. When you press the Tab key, in other words, the cursor will move in ½ inch increments across the page. You can begin typing at any of these locations. You can use the backspace key to move backward to the left, or the left arrow will work as well. To use tabs to line up your text, type a word, then press Tab rather than spaces to make sure your text lines up correctly. Type your next word and press Tab again. Let's do one more tab have a little more space. Type our next word. We're going to create a table. Press Tab one more time, and we'll type in the heading for this column. Now we can begin typing in information in our table. Press Tab each time to line up the cursor with the heading. Tab, and then Tab again, and type the next item. Just use the Tab key to line up the cursor again with each of the headings. Notice that everything is lined up on the left. This is what normal tabs do. They're left-aligned tabs. You can also align text on the center or on the right. Or you can also align numbers on the decimal point. Now hold down Shift and press F8. In the Format box, we need to choose 1 for line. Notice at the top you have the default tab settings. The tabs are every half inch. Press 1. We'd like to change some of these tabs. We do this using the arrow keys. Notice on the right, this L has a small blue line under it. We can move from tab to tab using the arrow keys to determine where we want to place our new tab. And at the bottom of the screen, it tells us the position where our blue line is located. We're moving more to the left now, and it shows us the actual inches, the measurement. Now we've moved to the 2-inch mark. There the blue underline is at the 2-inch mark. Let's move all the way over to the left. Here we want to remove the left tab and replace it with a center tab. At the bottom of the screen, we can choose the kind of tab we want. This is a highlighted letter. This is how you choose this. Press a C for center. Now looking back to the top, that tab has changed to a C. The items are centered. Of course, now they're too close on the left. We need to move them to the right. We can choose to clear the current tab. Type the letter O or click with the mouse. We'll type the letter O on the keyboard, and that tab is removed, and the items are moved to the next tab. Now, well, let's make this one a C for center. Back at the bottom, we'll type the letter C for center. Now, those items are centered. And moving on to the right, let's right align the next column. Underline the tab, and then press R for right. You could also click on the button with the mouse. Now let's type the R, and it changes to an R, and everything's aligned on the right. Now we'll align the numbers on the decimal, so that different length numbers, different numbers of digits will all line up on the decimal. Let's choose this one and type a D for decimal. Now, these numbers are aligned on the decimals. When you type in other numbers that have different numbers of digits, they'll all be aligned on the decimal. To get out of the tab set box, it's a little different than usual. OK is not highlighted currently, so you can't just press Enter. You could click OK with the mouse. To do it with a keyboard, you need to press the Tab key to move from button to button on the screen until the OK button is highlighted. Then you can press Enter. Then press Enter for OK here, and press Enter to close. Now we can see the actual alignment in the document of the items in the table. Let's move the cursor up to this line. We'll demonstrate how to center, bold, and underline the text. With the cursor in place, we want to center. Hold down Shift and then press F6. The line is moved to the center of the page. Or you can press Center first. Move the cursor back up to the line above and press Shift and then F6. That moves the cursor to the center. Then when you type, the text will remain centered. We can use the same procedure for bold. Let's backspace to erase this text. Then press F6 all by itself. Then when you begin typing, the text is in bold. The same is true for underline. Let's backspace to erase it and press F8 this time, all by itself. This turns on the underline feature. It places the underline code there, actually. Then you type, and it's underlined. Notice the bold code is still there, so the text is also bold. To make existing text bold or underlined, you need to block the text first. Next, we'll show how to indent text. Press F4 for indent. This indents the entire paragraph. To indent just the first line of the paragraph, press Shift F8 for Format. Then in the Format box, press 2 for Margins. Notice number 7 is first line indent, and you can choose the distance. Press 7 and then type in a value. This is in inches. For half an inch, choose 0.5 and then press Enter. Then press Enter again to accept these changes, and then press Enter to close this box. Now you'll notice on the left the first line is indented half an inch. Moving on down the page, you'll see that all of the first lines are indented. This code applies throughout the entire document. Next, we'll show how to arrange the document in columns. To create columns, hold down the Alt key and press F7. Press 1 for columns. Then we have a choice of column types. A newspaper column will create text running down a column and then back up to the next column. A balanced newspaper column is the same, but it will try to make them even and lined up. A parallel column is columns in a script or other kind of list. where the items on the left refer to the items on the right. Parallel with block protect would keep blocks of text together on the same page. Let's choose a newspaper column for this example. We'll have 2 columns. You may have more. The distance between columns will be ½ an inch. You can also adjust the line spacing between rows, and you can choose some column borders. Now we'll accept these settings by pressing Enter. Now notice that the document is in columns. The text reads down this column to the bottom of the page and then back up to the next column. At the bottom of this column, it goes to the next page. Now we've gone back to our letter document to show how to change fonts and other attributes of the text. Move the cursor back to the top with Home, Home, up arrow, and then hold down Control and press F8. This opens the font box. Press the number 1 on the keyboard. That opens the list of different fonts. Let's choose this Helvetica font. Press Enter, and that becomes the current font. We can also change other aspects of the font. The size. Press 2 for size, and then type in a new size or use the down arrow to open this list. Let's choose 14. Press Enter to choose it. Now back on the left, we can choose other items for appearance. Type 3 for appearance to choose bold, underline, etc. Press Enter to accept the changes. Then the document is converted to the new font throughout. Next, we'll show how to insert a graphic image in the document. Place the cursor in the area near where you want to place the graphic. Then hold down the Alt key on the keyboard and press F9. This opens the graphics box. We're going to retrieve an image. Use Shift F10. Hold down Shift and then press F10. This is the same as opening a file. Then if you know the name of the image file, you can type it in here. If you don't know the name, choose F5 to bring up a file list. Press F5 and then this suggests the graphics directory. All the files in the graphics directory in the WP60 directory. Press Enter to accept this, and we see then a list of the files in the graphics directory. Use the down arrow to move through this list of images. Let's choose this one called Hot Rod. .wpg identifies it as a WordPerfect graphics file. Now that this is selected, select as highlighted here, press Enter. This automatically places the hot rod picture into our document, near where the cursor was located. You can move the image and edit the image using the keyboard. But one of the quickest ways is to use the mouse. We'll show how to reposition the image using a mouse. Place the mouse arrow anywhere over the picture. Press the left mouse button. This highlights the image. Turns on the little black boxes at the edges, and a new mouse indicator appears. This means you can move the graphic. We move it by holding the left mouse button down and then moving the mouse. This moves an image of the outline of the box. Place it where you want to locate the graphic image. Let's place it here in the center of the page. Then release the mouse button and the image is placed there. Notice how the text has wrapped around the image on the left and on the right. The image is placed in the center of the page. You can also change the size of the image using the mouse. Again, click anywhere on the image. This selects or highlights the image, places the little border boxes around it. You can change the size by clicking on the corner square, holding the left mouse button down and dragging or moving the mouse, and then releasing. This makes it smaller. Click on it again. Click on the corner box, hold down, and drag out to make it larger again. If you click and drag on the side or top boxes, in some situations you can change the size of the box. In this case, we can't change the size on the left, but we can change it on the top, and it makes a larger box and changes the size of the picture. Then we can print using Shift F7 and print like normal. And when you send it to a black and white printer, such as a laser printer, the colors will be converted to shades of gray. And this is an example of a printout of this document. Next, we'll show how to create form letters using a list of data by merging the list of data such as addresses and names into the letter to create multiple copies of the letter. This is called mail merge or just merge. We can create a document that has codes inserted where the name, address, and so forth will be entered. Then we can prepare a list of data with the names and addresses, for instance, to be merged into the spots where the codes are and create many copies of the form letter. One copy for each of the sets of data in the list. Before we show how to create the form letter itself, we'll show how to create the list of data in WordPerfect. We begin by going to a new document to create the data file. Press F3 to switch to a new document. We have several documents currently open. We have 6 documents that are named, that are open. Let's choose 7, which is untitled. Press the number 7 on the keyboard. This brings us to a blank screen where we can create the data file for our merge. In 5.1, this is called the secondary file. Hold down the Shift key and press F9 for merge codes. Then we can choose the type of document or file, either a form or a data file. The form would be the actual letter or mailing label, for instance. We'll show how to do mailing labels also. Right now we're going to create the data as a text file, or you can use a table format. Let's choose 2 for data text. And this shows us the common merge codes. Shift F9 is what we need to press next to place our merge codes into the document. In this merge codes list, we need to choose field names. This is highlighted here. we could just move to it with the arrow key if it wasn't already highlighted. We're going to actually set up the names of different fields, such as the name field, the address field, and so forth, in our data file. Press Enter to choose field names. Now, we need to type in the name of each field. Name is the first one we want to create. That field name now appears in the list. We're creating the different names of the different fields. Address is our next field. And we'll use these field names to insert the codes into the document. City, and then state, and finally zip for zip code. These are the fields that we'll use in our form letter. We'll create a data file that has name and address information for a long list of people. We can use that data then to create form letters. The data will be filled in the proper places in the letter. When we're finished with this list, just press Enter. This highlights the OK button. Press Enter again to close this box. Now, at the top of the data file document that we're creating, we have the beginning of the document. It says field names. This is a merge code, and it has the names that we just created, the field names. Now, what we'll create in this file is a series of what are known as records. Each record will contain the name and address and so forth for a separate letter. Each record will have a person's name, address, city, state, and zip code. And then the next record will have the same information for another person, and so on down the list. To create the first record, we begin typing in the information next. First, the name. Then, after each item, or each field, as it's called, each item is called a field. Name, address, etc. At the end of each field, we have to let WordPerfect know that that's the end of the field by placing an end field code. The end field code is typed in using the F9 key. Just by itself, press F9, and this places the end field code at the end of this field, and then moves to the next line. This is address. We type in the street address here. Of course, you can have any kind of information in a data list. Press F9 for end field. As long as you have the right number of fields and the data that matches the fields, you can type anything into these fields. Let's type the city next. And then F9 again for end field. Then we do the state. Let's just use the two-letter abbreviation for the state. F9 again for end field. See, we do this for every item of our data. Type in the zip code, and then F9. This is our last field now. Now we're ready to end this particular record. Each person's information is a different record. And each record will create a different form letter. Hold down Shift now, and then press F9 for merge codes. Notice that 2 is end record. So type the number 2 on the keyboard, and that places an end record and then a page break, and then is ready for the next record. This is a complete record here. This information will be merged into one copy of the form letter. And then we'll put more records below in the data list. Now we've gone ahead and typed in some more records. We have 3 records typed in here. And each one of these records will create a new copy of the form letter that they're merged into. Each field has to be in the right order. The name has to be first, then the address, city, state, using the order that's at the top of your document. Whatever field names you've chosen for your document. We're going to save this now as a file on the disk, and then we'll show how to create the form letter and then merge this information into the form letter. To save the file, press F10. Then we give the file a name. Let's just call this one something easy to remember, data, and then we'll call it data 1 in case we want to create others, and we can choose numbers to identify those. Press enter. Now that's been saved with that name. Now we need to create the form letter. If you don't have a form letter already created and you start from a blank screen, then when you press Shift F9, you'll get this box as we did before. And you can choose 1 for form or the data if you want to create that. Then in the upper left hand corner we're ready to begin typing in our letter. Let's begin with the date. Then when you come to a place where you need to put in the actual merge code, such as the name or address, then you need to place a field code there. To do this, you press Shift F9. That opens the merge codes box. And what we want to choose is 1 for field. This will place the field codes, and we can enter the name of the field that we want. Or if you want to see a list of the field names, press F5, and it will show the list of the field names in your data file. Or you can just type them in. Just make sure you spell them exactly the same way. Press enter, and now we've placed the field code here in the document. This is field name. And press enter to move to the next line, and this is the street address now. Type Shift F9 and choose 1 for field. Then type address. Upper and lower case doesn't matter. That places the field code for address. And then press enter again to move to the next line. Now Shift F9 again, and 1 for field. Then type in city. This is the field that goes next, the city field. Now we want to have the city followed by a comma, so we type a comma and then a space. And now we want to put in the code for state. Shift F9 again, and then 1 for field. Type in state. Make sure you spell it exactly the same. That puts the merge code for the state field. Then type a space. And then we want the code for zip, for the zip code. Press Shift F9 and 1 for field and type zip. This is the name of that zip code field. Now we have all of the items entered for our name and address. Press enter, moves down to the next line, and press enter a few more times to place a couple more blank lines here. Now we're ready to place the beginning of the letter. Type in the salutation. Then here we can use the person's name. We can just use the same name field again. So press Shift F9 and 1 for field. and then type name again. We're going to place the name field. And we want that to be followed with a comma. Now we're ready to type the rest of the letter. Press enter and go on and type the rest of the letter. If we were using an existing form letter, we would do the same thing. We'd have the letter already here, and we would just type in these merge codes at the top. Now we've typed in the rest of our letter. We're ready to save the form letter. To save, press F10 and type in a name for the letter. Let's call this letter 1. We call the data file data 1. Now press enter, and that saves the form letter on the disk. Now we're ready to actually merge the data with the form letter. This is the form letter, of course, and the data will be merged into the areas that we've selected with the fields. A new copy of the form letter will be generated for each record in the data file. To merge the documents together, we need to go to a new document, press F3 for switch to. Switch to a new blank document. We only have one more available currently. Number 9. Let's press 9. Hold down Control and press F9 for merge sort. The merge sort box comes up. Press 1 for merge. Now we're asked to fill in the name of the form file. This is the form letter and then the data file also. We call the form file letter 1. Press enter then. Now in the data file box, type data 1. This is the name of the data file. And we press enter there. Now merge is highlighted. Just press enter. Then when the merge is finished, you'll see a letter on the screen. It'll be the last letter, the last record from the data file. Then use the arrow keys or page up to move back up the screen. And you'll see all of the rest of the letters with the information from the data file merged into the proper locations in the letter. And a separate page is created for each one of these records. Next, we'll show how to create labels and how to merge labels to use the data list in our data file to create labels. First, we need to set up the label format on the screen, depending on the type of label we're trying to print. Hold down the Shift key and press F8 for format. In the format box, choose 3 for page. Press the number 3 on the keyboard. Then choose 5 for labels. Now we have a list of different kinds of labels. We'll use these predefined labels from the list. There's different kinds of commercially available labels. Let's scroll down. Hold down the down arrow key, just hold it down, and you'll move down fast. We want the Avery 5160 address labels. This is a laser printer type label. Of course, you could choose any kind of label format from this list. When that is highlighted, press Enter. Notice that's the type of Avery label entered in this block. Also the paper size is listed here. Now we're finished choosing the label that we want. Just press Enter. And then press Enter to close. Now on the left side of the screen, a special label form is created for us to type in the information for the label. This is just the right width for the type of label that we've chosen. You can just type in the name and address. We're just creating individual labels now, we're not merging. Press Enter to go to the next line. Let's type the address. Of course, you can place any kind of information on these labels. Then press Enter a few more times, and eventually a line will be formed, and that's the beginning of the next label. If you want to center the information, move the cursor back up, press Enter to move it down. You can also use the center key to center it from left to right. Remember, this is Shift F6 on the keyboard. Then move to the next label and type in the next address. As you go on down the page, every time you've done the right number of lines, this is 6 lines, then a new line will appear, and that's the beginning of the next label. The labels will actually print from left to right on the page. For the 5160 Avery labels, it's 3 across and 10 down. You can use Print Preview to see how the labels will look. Next, we'll show how to insert the merge codes into a label form to create labels that we can merge our data file into. To enter the merge codes, we type Shift F9. And we're creating the form. So press 1 on the keyboard. Then press 1 for field. And type in the name of the field, just as we did before. The first field is name. Then press Enter. Shift F9, and then 1 for field, and type in address. Press Enter. Then press Enter to move to the next line. Press Shift F9 again, 1 for field, and type in city. Then a comma and a space. Then, to place the field for state, press Shift F9 again, and 1 for field, and type state. Notice that it moved to the next line because it was too long to fit on the line. This will still all be one line in the label. Then a space, and finally Shift F9, and 1, and then zip for the zip code field. Press Enter, and now we have the zip, and we have all of the information for the label. To create an extra space or an extra blank line at the top, move back to the top and press Enter to move everything down. We can also center these items just by centering the field information using Shift F6. Now we need to save this as our form, our label form. To save it, we press F10 for Save As, and type in a name for it. Let's call it Label 1. Press Enter. Now we're ready to merge our data file into this label form. Press F3 on the keyboard to switch to a new blank document. Press 3 in this case. Now we're in a new document. Press Ctrl F9 for Merge Sort, and then choose 1 for Merge. Press 1 on the keyboard. Now we get to fill in the name of the form. In this case is Label 1. Press Enter, and then for data file, we'll use the same data file we used before, data 1. Press Enter there, and this is exactly the same thing we did with the form letter. We've got the form file name and the data file name, and we're ready to merge the documents. Press Enter on the keyboard, and here we have the 3 records that we had in our data file filled into the labels. Let's look at Print Preview. Shift F7 and then number 7. Now we see a print preview. This is how they'll look on the label form. Now press Escape to go back and clear that box. To actually print it then, press 1 for full document, and it's sent to the printer. And here is an example of the actual printout. Next, we'll show how to create macros and how to use macros. A macro is just a series of steps or functions in the program that you record and then repeat or play back, so to speak, with just a few keystrokes on the keyboard. Anytime you have to repeat something, a macro is a good thing to use. For instance, in this example, we want to change these subheads to a larger size, a different type style or font, and change them to bold. And we want to repeat that on the other ones without having to do all the steps. We'll create a macro that contains all the different steps or commands, and then we'll just repeat it on these other subheads. Again, a macro can contain anything, even text. If there's some words or some text that you have to repeat, you can have it set up with a macro and then press a few keys to type all of that text in again. Place the cursor where you want it in the document, and then hold down Control and press F10. This is Record Macro. Then we get a Record Macro box. We can type in a name for the macro. In this case, we're going to choose a macro name that is an actual keystroke. Just press Alt and any letter, such as X, and that becomes the name of the macro. And then you can repeat the macro by typing Alt-X, by holding down the Alt key and pressing X. Now press Enter here. Notice now at the bottom of the screen it says Recording Macro. Now everything we do with the keyboard or the mouse, all of the actions we perform will be recorded in this macro. And then we can repeat those actions once we're finished by just using Alt plus X. First, we want to turn block on to block out the line. Use F12 or Alt F4 to turn block on. Now press the End key. That moves to the end of the line automatically and blocks out the entire line. We use End so we can use different lengths of lines, and it will still go to the end of the line. if we use the arrow keys and moved a certain number of spaces, then it wouldn't be the right number of spaces for this line. We use the end key to move to the end of the line, so it will block everything on the line. Next, we want to change the font. Use Control F8, and in the font box, press 1, and then choose a different font. Let's move down and find a new font. Let's choose this one and press Enter. Now on the right, let's choose a different size. Press the number 2, and remember, all of this is still being recorded in the macro. Press the down arrow to open the list. Let's choose this size, 18. Press Enter. Now, back on the left, let's change something on the appearance. Press 3, and then press 2 for underline. We'll underline the text. Now that we're finished, press Enter to close this box. Now the change has been made to the subhead. Now we're ready to stop recording the macro. We've been recording all of these steps in the macro. To stop, press Control and then F10 again. You use that to start and to stop the recording. Control, then F10. That stops the macro. Notice down at the bottom now, we've already done Control F10 and it doesn't say recording anymore. Now it just has the name of the document. Now we're ready to perform the macro. Let's move the cursor down to the next line where we want to perform the macro. It has to be at the same relative place on the line as it was in the beginning, when we created the macro. So move it on down. Now we're ready to perform the macro here. All you have to do is press the shortcut key that we chose. Hold down Alt and press X. And the macro is performed automatically. This subhead now has the same formatting as the one above. Let's move the cursor down to the next line and do the same thing. Hold down Alt and press X. The macro is performed again, and we can use this macro now anywhere in any document. Next, we'll show how to get help if you're working in WordPerfect and you need some help with a particular feature or function. There are extensive online help files available. You access help by pressing F1. That brings up the help screen. You highlight the one you want and then press Enter. In this case, we chose index. Now we have an index of all of the help topics. When you find the topic that you're interested in, press Enter. And now we have some information about block, how to turn it on, what it's for, and so forth. Press Escape now to clear help. Also, help works in what they call a context-sensitive mode. For instance, if you're trying to do some formatting, press Shift F8 to get the format box, and then, for instance, choose 3 for page. Now this box comes up and we're not really sure what to do here. All we have to do is press F1 with this box on the screen. Press F1, and then the page format help screen comes up. Anytime something is in a blue color on this screen, you can highlight that for further information. We chose page numbering. If you've just recently upgraded from WordPerfect 5.1 to 6.0, you may have noticed that some of the function keys are slightly different. For instance, the F1 key used to be cancel and now it's help. F3 was help and now it's switch to. Also, the escape key was used for repeat, and now it's cancel. These are some of the differences. It is possible to convert WordPerfect 6.0 back to the old 5.1 function key operation. We'll show how to do that right now. To switch back to the WordPerfect 5.1 keyboard, hold down Shift and press F1 for Setup. Then, in the Setup screen, we choose 3 for Environment. In the Environment box, notice down at the bottom, the letter K is what we would type to choose the WordPerfect 5.1 keyboard, where F1 is cancel. This is just a reminder, so we know that's what the 5.1 keyboard is. You can also change the cursor movement. The way the cursor moves around is a little different in 5.1 and 6.0. If you want to select one of these, just type the letter next to it. Let's change the keyboard by typing the letter K. And that places an X in this box. Now that we're finished, just press Enter. And press Enter to close this box. Now you'll notice that when you press F3, for instance, on the keyboard, it brings up the help screen, just as it did in version 5.1. Also, when you type F1 now, instead of being help, it will be cancel, as it was in 5.1. Notice how pressing F1 closed the help box. If you're using version 5.1, there are a few other things you should know. The keyboard is a little different. F1 is cancel and F3 is help, for instance, and there are a few other slight differences in the function keys. The other difference is the appearance of the screen. In version 5.1, the screen has a blue background with white text. There are some other text colors that you can choose. Also, when you press a function key such as print, let's do Shift F7 for print. Instead of getting a box on the screen, the choices just appear on the screen. A list of the different choices. Many of these numbers are still the same. 1 for full document, 2 for page, and so forth. You choose by typing the letter that's highlighted or the number. You may also use the mouse, if you have a mouse, to click on the item. Let's exit this one by pressing F7 for exit. And let's choose Shift F8 for format. Here's an example of what the format screen would look like, the format menu. Line, page, document, etc. Some of the numbers that you type will be a little different. And you can check your keystroke sheet to see some of these differences. But basically the function of the program is the same. Whenever the keystrokes are different in version 5.1, they'll be indicated in the keystroke sheet.
The video you just watched contains intermediate features. But you and your coworkers can gain powerful computer skills from our advanced video package. For only $149.50, you'll get advanced videos on Windows, Microsoft Word for Windows, Excel, WordPerfect, Lotus, and DOS. In 2 hours or less per video, you can learn dozens of powerful time-saving skills. Sometimes a single feature can save hundreds of hours of labor. And if you or someone you know needs a solid foundation in the basics of using computer software, we have the answer. For only $119.95, you'll get beginning videos on Windows, Microsoft Word for Windows, Excel, WordPerfect, Lotus, and DOS. That's $119.95 for beginning videos on Windows, Microsoft Word, Excel, WordPerfect, Lotus, and DOS. For those who need a solid foundation in the basics of using computer software. We ship all orders the day we receive them. You'll get your tapes in 7 to 10 working days. For another $8, we'll rush your order for delivery in 3 working days. To order the advanced package, all 6 videos for just $149.50, just call this number, 1-800-999-3279. Order now. To order the beginning package, all 6 videos for just $119.95, just call this number,